So the teacher, again, is the one that bridges that gap. But they've got to have some options. And it'd be great if you give them more than one, you know. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into that. But way too general. Now, look down to B there. The teacher must allow the Spirit of God into the lesson. Conviction comes from the Holy Spirit when the student understands the truth. And look, and time is left for a response to God by the student as the lesson concludes. That is what I hardly ever see around our country in Baptist churches. Hardly ever see anybody that allows time at the end, especially with your teenagers and adults. The older we get, we assume that they'll do it. I mean, they heard it. They're old enough to understand the truth. So my job's through. No, your job hasn't finished yet. All right. So down at the bottom paragraph. When the teacher allows for no such response to God, there'll be no transformation take place. The teacher bridges this gap by allowing time. How's the teacher do that? There's your word. Stop talking. Has anybody ever said to you that you don't have to talk till the bell rings? Have you ever been in a class where the teacher stopped way before the bell rang? Somehow we've had it in our mind that I just keep pumping it out. And if I run out of material, if I run out of my notes and I got 10 minutes to go, no problem. I'll just ad-lib it the rest of the way. But sometimes we just keep on going like that, and we never stop talking and allow them to respond back to God. See, a transformation is between me and God. And there has to be a time when I respond back to God about the truth I just heard, and then He changes me. It's just the way it is. But if I never have time to do that, if I come to the end of that and say, well, I hope you enjoyed that. Let's pray. God, help us. Give us a good day now. Help Pastor as he preaches. Well, amen. Well, class dismissed. Hey, saw your boy down at the store the other day. He's a big old tall guy, isn't he? He plays basketball. That's how quick it is, 10 seconds. And their mind is gone on thinking of something else. So I need to get there quickly. So whether you teach children or teens or adults, you ought to is just not good enough. Let's go to the next page. Illustrating the specifics. Illustrating them. Let's see. Let me have one of you guys, one of you students come up here and help me with this. I want to put something on the board here. Just one of you. Come on up. There you go. All right. Just take that red marker, the one we got there, and I want you to put like 2 columns up here, and then I want the rest of you to help me. I want you to put home on one side, then a little bit out, just straight on out from that, put school. Put a little bit big. Can y'all see it back there? All right, bigger. That's all right. Hey, we got a rag there. Don't put it on your hands. Oh, we got no room to do all. All right, here we go. All right, home is the first one. School. Now, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I didn't make it clear. I'm going to put 4 up here. Home, school, etc. Okay? I'm the one that's messing him up. All right. We're going to put home, school, church, and neighborhood. Home, school, church, and neighborhood. And then I want you to just stay there. We're going to get some ideas under each one of those. Home, school, church, neighborhood. All right? Now, we're talking about children. Let's put it in our context here. We're talking about children. We need to get to the specifics as soon as possible. See, the generalities must not last for long. The faster you arrive at the specifics, the more you can bring into focus and begin relating to the student's life situations. All right? So let's say we're talking in this lesson, let's say we're talking about honesty. The lesson is about honesty. All right? Now, give me some ideas up here we can put up here. At home, first of all, let's say we're talking to primaries or juniors this time. And at home, what are the life situations that would put them face to face with honesty or dishonesty? In other words, what would they do at home that they would if they look at that, it crosses their mind, is this honest or dishonest to do this? Give me a situation. Sir? Chores, okay? Put it up there. Have you ever said, yeah, I did, and you didn't? All right, doing the chores. Something else around the house that would a kid would face about honesty. Something else, quickly. Brush your teeth. All right? I wish you hadn't put that one in there. That was one of my faults all the time. How about money laying on the counter over here? All right? Put down money after that. Something else, real quick. Anything else? Around the home. What did you get caught doing all the time you wasn't supposed to do? Well, we know like babies do. They go in there and get the pans and beat up on things, but what was it for you? Nobody else did anything? All right, let's go to the school situation. Let's think children now, primaries or juniors, when they go to school, they're going to have different places they go, different time slots during the day and the week, and different situations are going to arise. What are some of those places that will affect them that honesty may be an issue? Give me one. Come on, think. Testing, all right? Testing. And my notes are right here. I've seen it before. Take a little, ballpoint pen, and you come in, and he won't shake hands with you. He'll shake hands like that way. He's going to test. He's going to open it up, and there they are. What else? Anything else? Come on now. You're the teacher. You're teaching, and your lesson is on honesty, and you know that kid's going to go to school today, whether it's a Christian school or just a regular school. What are the situations he's going to face about honesty at school? Yes. Talking when you're not supposed to. Okay, great. That's a good one. Somebody else. Peer pressure. Even with the children, just put P, P-E-E-R. We'll know what that is. Anybody else on that one? Homework. Ooh, okay. All right, now let's go to the church. What could happen? Yeah, you mean honesty could be a problem at church? What kind of situations would he get into? Give me another one. At church. Well, it could still be, of course, stealing and things like that could be an issue. Well, let's go on to let's go on to what is that last one anyway? Neighborhood. Now that's got a lot of things that may or may not come up, but they face a lot of things in the neighborhood. Give me one of them. In the neighborhood, think when you were a child. Bike, where, or something like that. Somebody else. Who? Fighting. Okay, what'd you say, Ms. Shadowns? You talking about him? No. Yeah, bullying. That's a big thing in schools today. Fighting, things like that. Bullying. I don't know what it is. Somebody, yes, sir. What'd you have over here? What'd you have? Wrong friends. Okay. All right. We'll stop right there. But see, as a teacher, you got kids that are going to be in all these different spots during the next week, and they're going to face the opportunity to do this or that. You go to the grocery store with mom. You have some of these kids, even Christian kids. They go down that candy aisle, and they look at that one bar they haven't had in weeks and weeks, and they walk down a little bit, and they look at something else, and they come back, and they look at that bar as they go by, and mom over turned the corner. She's over somewhere else. Nobody's looking, And so I just come over here and just kind of feel of it just a minute, and there's all kinds of opportunities there. So what you're trying to do is find out life situations of your students and where they go. And then you got the little bus kids and all the things that they have right in their own home and other times. But we must think life situations, second paragraph there, that fit and stay there, for it allows time to bring up multiple implications of the truth, but in different ways. See, what I'm trying to do is maybe teach a lesson over here, all right? And there's nothing wrong with that, and I can give a Bible illustration over here, but sometimes a Bible illustration is complete within itself. We see the end result right in the story there. But sometimes that particular story doesn't fit a lot of my kids. It fits some of them, but maybe not a lot of them here, because they've never been in that situation. It's about another person at another time in another context that these kids will probably never be in to start with. So I can use an illustration like that. Nothing wrong with a Bible illustration. But if I come along and lay us alongside that, something that happened at their school 3 weeks ago, woo, now they're listening, you see. It's like the story of the Good Samaritan. Our kids will never be on a lonely road headed for Jericho with a donkey and a scary place where thieves are known to do their thing there, and we'll never come across a wounded man out there about to die without help. But pair that illustration to befriending another child, like was mentioned, who's bullied at school. This is where they live. All right? I've told them about another time, another place, and other circumstances. Okay? But they're not going to face things just like that. So how can I help them see the same truth about honesty from God, but it hits them in another way over here, another time, and the time that they're living. So we're just simply trying to get to know our students for one thing. If you teach kids, you ought to read any book you can that have characteristics of children. You need to remind yourself, if you've been teaching I've seen teachers have been teaching for 30 years, and it looks like they're still teaching kids that were growing up back in the 30 years ago. They're just not up to what's happening in the lives of kids today. So what they're saying, the kids just sit there and look at them. They've never heard that before, never seen that before, probably never will. But at the same time, I need to get to where they're living. So look at the third paragraph. An illustration helps, but often the illustration comes from someone else, and that's basically what I was saying to you there. So use this what if this happened to you scenario. And I would say something like this: boys, girls, Joe's a Christian. Joe's a little Christian boy, and a new family moved into town. The man got a job in this town and bought the house right next to where Joe lives. And the next day they were out, and Joe met this young man, almost his own age, called Sammy. And but Joe's a Christian, and he didn't know much about Sammy. And so Sammy asked him to, this would be our neighborhood. Sammy asked him to, Joe, show me where the grocery store is in this town. And so they walked down about 3 or 4 blocks there, and they were starting to get right up to the door, and Sammy stopped and he said, Joe, see that lady selling Girl Scout cookies on the street there, on the sidewalk? He said, let's go up and look at them. I love Girl Scout cookies. Don't you love Girl Scout cookies? I eat the whole box. That's why I never buy them anymore. But now, Joe, listen, you look at the ones on this end where the lady is. I'm going to look at the ones on the other end. And then when you get there, pick one up and ask her what the price is, okay? And so they walk up together. Joe didn't know what's going on. Sammy moves over to the end of the table on this side, and as soon as Joe asks the lady about a price, she turns her direction there to face him, and Sammy puts a little box of cookies in his jacket. And he goes by Joe and said, let's go. And before long, they're at the far end of the parking lot. And Sammy opens up his coat and he said, look here, lemon bars. I love those. I love them. Joe, here's a box of lemon bars. Half of them are for you and half of them for me. That's a situation, you see, that any of your kids could be in next week. And so I try to think through their lifestyle. That's why I want to get to know about. Go and ask a school teacher, even a public school teacher, and just ask them, what are the different situations these kids get into? They'll tell you. They see it every single day. That gives you illustrations that you can use now, you see. Okay, so come on down at the end here. Let's see. What we got? Who preached long today? Look at the bottom here. The last big paragraph down here. Again, Finley Edge says this so clear, much better than I can. So he says, here's the difference. A life situation is not the same thing as an illustration. Illustration is a story or incident that is complete within itself. In an illustration, the end or outcome is told. In a life situation, the end or outcome is not told. The group is led to a point in which a decision may be made, but the decision is not given. Options may be given, but for the student's free will, they will still need a decision. So these examples come easier to a teacher who knows your students to the best of your ability. And you're trying to put your lesson together in light of what they understand in real life. So the sooner I get there from generalities, the sooner I get to specifics, now I have more time. I can maybe touch 2, 3, 4 areas of life, because when that same truth hits them over here, it may be in a gray area over here that they don't understand. It's not a yes, no, black, white answer. It's not as clear as you said with the illustration you gave. But they live over here, and that's what happens. So that's what I want to get to just as quick as possible with my children. All right, let's turn our page here. Let's see. She said I'm supposed to be through at 12:15. Okay. Students have different learning styles. Is that how I teach? See, children now are watching TV just out of the cradle. It has consequences. It makes it harder for all of us to listen attentively without the support of visual images, hundreds of them in seconds of time. There's another big hindrance to our behavior, that of response from the listener. I mean, teachers are seeing this more and more and more. Kids are growing up under the tube early on, and they've got some gadget in their hand. It's all interactive. It's watching and playing and trying to be the hero, and it's doing all the games and everything. So students who take in with no response, they'll sit there for hours and not say anything, and yet their mind is totally involved in what they have. That's the way it is, and the world's not going to get any better either. So students require more and more ways to learn than ever before. We must provide more ways to keep their attention, retention, and help them comprehend the truth. So we need to stop assuming they got it simply because we talked for 40 minutes about it. See, I need to know who I'm talking to the best of my ability. The God-given senses give us the wisdom of the Lord in communicating. We see how He gets our attention and see it when He taught us and taught people on earth. I mean, with our God-given senses, we recognize there's a God. Students have different learning styles or learning preferences. In other words, I just put some ideas down. Do you use visuals? Well, visuals is probably how most people enjoy visuals. So if I can put visuals in my lesson as I go, it's going to help most all the students. That's how lots of people learn best through visuals. Now, if I never use any, then I'm not using one of the best ways most of my students learn. Do you allow for discussion? Do you allow interactive learning? Do you ever use problem solving? Do you demonstrate the truth when possible? Words are powerful, demonstration is greater. Do we welcome questions, or do they know already? Don't ask him a question because it bothers him every time he asks. So we have taught kids, don't ask a question, especially while you're totally confused. Have you ever been used brainstorming? Is there something to see, something to say, something to do, to write, to take home? See. Now, here's a big thought on the next page. To me, this is big. I have it in big letters here. The goal is not necessarily to limit my communication, or to limit communication to my personal best style of speaking, but to their best style of listening. Now, to me, that's big. Let me give you an example there. In research conducted by Nader and Rollins, that was a great big firm. They found an alarming statistic about learning preferences. They looked at 1,500 adults who had dropped out of school in the 8th grade and found that 99.60% of them were sensing dominant learners. In other words, they were visual and interactive learners, but the teachers never taught that way. Out of 1,500, not one teacher taught that way. Now look at these thoughts quickly here. Author Rick Blackwood said this: we should not ask, is this student smart? Rather, we should ask, how is this student smart? Is the student hearing smart, visually smart, interactively smart, a little bit of everything? So if our one avenue of communication is only to attract hearing smart, we may be in trouble and yet have yet to recognize it. That's why some of us, get low grades sometimes. The teacher just doesn't understand me. He doesn't teach the way I can't learn with this teacher. That's why I make D's. Don't try it. It don't work here or anyplace else. But sometimes we just blame it on somebody else. In the book, The Power of Multi-Sensory Preaching and Teaching, we read this. People have higher levels of attention, comprehension, and retention when teaching is presented in a visually rich form. Now listen to this. In fact, God wired our brains for visuals. According to 3M Corporation, which is a pretty big outfit, we process visuals 60,000 times faster than text. This is because we take in data from text in a sequential fashion while we process visuals in an instant. I mean, even if that was only 30,000 times faster, or 1,000 times, or 200 times, or 20 times, or just 10 times faster, maybe I need to consider using something like that. Look at the next quote there. In visual literacy, learn to see, learn to learn, see to learn. There is a natural progression in the way we process information. For the first the image, then the thoughts. She saw on the internet a story of a young boy's reaction to a beautiful sunset on the beach. He said on his story, he said, "Dear God, I didn't think purple and orange went together until I saw the sunset you created on Tuesday. That was cool." Signed, Eugene, just a young boy. See, I didn't think until I saw. Translation, now I see, I better understand. So, all this new technology and everything of this day, it's only going to get greater. And all the interactive parts of a person's learning is going to get more intense as we go. They're not going to cut this off. They're not going to stop doing what they're doing. That's just the way it goes. So as a teacher, I at least need to train my teachers how to get a little bit more, Use something every now and then. Get it. You'll have to get up and demonstrate it to them. At one time, we only had radio, hearing only. I was back there. Then we had television, hearing and seeing. Woo. We had a television, had 6 channels. 5 was absolute snow. We ran our antenna wire, went all the way to the top of a mountain over here in Tennessee. And the only show we had was wrestling that we could even see. And that was back when Gorgeous George was wrestling. You remember him? Then came the computer, hearing, seeing, interactive. And whatever comes next is going to be more interactive. Can't believe some of the things. So young brains have been rewired and dependent on our multisensory teaching. They require maximum attention, comprehension, and retention. So in this day and time, and more so in the immediate future, so are we going to respond to that like in the way that we should? The problem restated, let's learn this. Not everyone learns in the same way. Not everyone prefers to learn the same way. Conclusion, recognize this is so and prepare to teach every student in the room. The problem enlarged, learning must start where the student is. Now listen to this, where the student is. However, because many educators do not understand the concept of student learning styles, teaching does not often begin where the student is, but where the teacher is. And that sometimes becomes the problem. Everyone comes with a dominant sense that will be their best and most favorable or optimum sense whereby they learn best. To the best of my ability, I need to find out as many kids like that as I teach and what helps them. Therefore, I can plan that into my notes. Now, the rest of this you can just look at. I don't think there are any more blanks in here. We talk about some of the best ways to learn. Being sensitive to real needs. That's what we need to do. I've talked to school teachers before, and they'll say, I've got this little kid that sits over here, and every now and then, almost every day, I'm talking about something. I'm trying to make it real to the kids, and I look over there, and he's sitting there with his eyes closed. He's not even looking at me. It looks like he's not listening. Looks like he's asleep. I just want to wring his neck. But a lot of kids, you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to visualize what she's saying, because they learn best if they can put it in a picture form. And so they try to visualize it to do that. So there's so much of these things. Talk about the auditory learner, visual learners, interactive learners. Read that piece about kids in Japanese. You know they have no textbooks, none. They have no homework. There's no lectures. It's all hands-on. I read that in U.S. Today report on that. That they come and it said classrooms pandemonium. But that's how they learn. Their hands are on it. They see it. They try it. They demonstrate it. They see the results of it. And they learn, and they learn, and they learn. It's not going to change us, I know, but you were born to learn with your whole body and all your senses. You're not born to sit in a chair for 8 hours a day and listen to someone talk. So there's some other, the last page there gives you several options for your age group and classroom methods and things like that, just to, not just to liven up the place, but to help these kids. 93% of communication, 93% of what actually came across is above and beyond the words you say. Any college textbook would tell you that about communication. What actually came across. 93% is above and beyond the words you say. It is how you say what you say. All right? We're dismissed. Thank you.